It is March 4th, 2025, and of course, a lot's going on in the world. And of course, you see that QR code. So if you've got comments about what's going on in the world, please definitely let us know in the comment section and all along those lines. But definitely, we've been hearing some good comments from some of the folks that have been tuning in. But let me just tell you about some of the world events. Pope Francis had two episodes of acute respiratory failure, but is alert and resting. So he no longer requires mechanical ventilation after a respiratory crisis. So he's definitely stabilizing, according to some Vatican sources. And definitely he's battling rumors or talks of pneumonia and rumors of resignation, but haven't heard any confirmations of that. So we'll just wait to see how this all plays out in the Vatican and all along those lines. And Europe is considering a major defense spending package as Trump signals disengagement. So Ursula von der Leyen proposes a 800 billion pounds rearm Europe plan to step up Ukraine support. So that's something that folks are definitely going to be talking about as we prepare to hear what President Trump will be saying this evening in his talk to, I believe that's Congress that he's talking to and everything like that, but also talking to the American people. So we'll see what is going on in that area. Starmer and Keir Starmer, that is, and Macron are stepping up to shape up European security as Trump roils relations. So Europeans embrace Zelensky after he was vilified by Trump, and that was on yesterday. So definitely, like I said, they are laying out some peace plans or peace deal framework as Zelensky is responding to resignation calls. And in Israel, Israel warns Hamas to return remaining Gaza hostages or face hell. So Gazians worry as Israel border bloc sends food prices climbing. So the Gaza summit, Israel warns Hamas it has days to rethink its ceasefire position. So that's definitely something they're talking about. Just like they're talking about it could be a political dilemma for Israel's prime minister. And definitely a Russia-friendly region in Bosnia is cheering Trump's return. So that's something going on as well. So, and in the Egypt summit, Arab leaders to unveil Gaza construction plan to counter those of Trump's. So Egypt's Gaza plan excludes Hamas from future governance. And as the Gaza crisis deepens, Arab leaders are to meet to form a plan. Technology hubs and beach hotels, Egypt plans for reconstruction Gaza is backed by the Arab Summit. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. And Sudan is still in the middle of their civil war, and 1-year-olds are among those that have been raped, according to what the UN is reporting. So definitely that is some very sad news as infants and young children are being raped as a weapon of war in Sudan, according to UNICEF. So definitely that's something that is being going on in the African nation. And Japan struggles to contain the biggest wildfire in half a century. Japan fights its largest wildfire in more than 30 years. So that's something that folks are talking about as well, as Japan fights a forest fire that has damaged dozens of homes and caused hundreds to evacuate. Like I said, that's one of the largest ones that has taken place in decades. And Vance says giving the U.S. an economic upside in the future of Ukraine is best for Kyiv. And definitely there's even Vice President J.D. Vance reveals where things broke apart during the Trump-Zelensky blow-up at the White House. And Vance says the U.S. is working on a Ukraine plan with the Russians after Trump cuts defense aid to Kyiv. And at least in Mannheim, car attack suspect, a German with a history of mental illness. So at least 2 were killed after a car rams crowd in Mannheim, Germany. So Mannheim attack, they're saying it's daily news now here in Germany, and 2 dead and 25 injured after a vehicle drives into a crowd in that area. And Russian missile experts flew to Iran in proximity to direct attacks on Israel. So some folks are asking, is Iran planning a direct attack on Israel, and are asking why Putin's missile experts flew to Iran. Operation Qatar and Gold Bars, how Iran became the hub of Russian espionage in the Middle East. So Russia shifts intelligence operations from Syria to Iran. And Ariane Space scrubs Ariane 6's first commercial launch due to ground systems issues, and that took place on yesterday. So Ariane Space calls off its second ever launch of the Ariane 6 heavy lift rocket. So it looks like Europe is back in space with that new satellite launcher, even though they did call off that particular flight yesterday. And definitely Trump's blow up with Zelensky is spurring Taiwan to rethink its U.S. tactics. So Taiwan says it's impossible for the U.S. to retreat from the Asia Pacific. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. And Rio's top Samba school parade at the Samba Drome on the second night of Carnival. So Carnival means big business for communities around the world. And folks are talking about that because Carnival is definitely still going on. And they were even talking about a couple of days ago, the Rio Carnival Street Party, where dogs parade as superheroes and cartoon characters. So, and of course, there's all kinds of music and all kinds of other things that take place in that as well. So, like I said, lots going on in the world, including Austria swears in a new government, ending a 5 months political crisis. So Austria's three-party government takes office, shutting out the far right. So Austria is getting a new coalition government without the far right election winner. So Christian Stocker becomes the Austrian chancellor as the three-party government is sworn in. So definitely that's what folks are talking about. Just like they're talking about, Gaza observes a somber start to Ramadan. So nearly 5,000 Ghazians gathered for iftar amid the rubble on yesterday. But as they were reporting a few days ago, as far as Ramadan in Gaza, ruins and unshakable faith. So that's definitely was something that folks are talking about. And an NSFW float roasts Donald Trump with MAGA testicles at a German carnival. So a daring German carnival float mocks Trump, Putin, and the AFD. So it was a colorful parade, apparently, with political satire and controversy. And German police on alert, or they were on alert, after Islamic State calls for carnival attacks. But yeah, there was even the carnival going on in Germany as well. And some folks are asking, is it time to transfer frozen Russian assets to Ukraine? Calls are growing louder. UK-France tensions over plans to seize $350 billion Russian assets for U.S. arms. So Europeans are moving towards seizing 200 billion pounds of Russian assets. So definitely that's something that's going on as well. And metal container saves workers after the avalanche in India. Workers survived 36 hours buried under an Indian avalanche. In the unforgiving Himalayas, steel containers and jawans saved 46 workers from that particular avalanche. So, like I said, lots going on the world stage and all along those lines. And of course, folks are still paying attention to what's going on here in the U.S. as well. So, lots of things are taking place, and it's always fascinating to see what folks have to say about a variety of these topics and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, Trump is to lay out his domestic and foreign policy agenda in his address to the Congress, and that is amid trade tensions and the Ukraine aid pause. So definitely folks will be seeing that, and folks even at Fox are having the Trump report card. Conservative and liberal analysts are revealing their grades for presidents on top issues. Maybe we'll see what folks here have got to say about how they think the president is doing, as well as those tariffs went into effect today. So Trump had directed the administration to pause military aid to Ukraine. And of course, like I said, the tariffs were in play today as well. And China and Canada immediately retaliated against Trump's tariffs. So definitely, and Mexico is to counter on Sunday. So definitely, the Dow tumbled more than 600 points. The S&P 500 posts the biggest loss since December, as Trump says tariffs will proceed. So definitely, that's folks that are talking about as well. So definitely, gun rights and Indian property taxes up for debate as Florida lawmakers are returning to Tallahassee. So there are Florida lawmakers are proposing hundreds of bills, and folks are definitely seeing that there is a political cloud looming in that part of the United States. And in Iowa, they got to know about the possible blizzard conditions on Tuesday and Wednesday. A massive March storm with hurricane forces winds is knocking out power, and that's something that they're not always used to in that area and all along those lines. And Linda McMahon has been confirmed as of yesterday as Trump's Secretary of Education. So definitely that's something that folks will be following and seeing what's going on in that. And they're saying the Democrats are serious about a shutdown. Looming shutdown deadline presents a minefield for Speaker Johnson and spending bill text expected over the weekend, according to what Republicans said yesterday and all along those lines. So, and Mexico is facing off with the U.S. gun makers at the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court to consider Mexico's lawsuit against U.S. gun makers, and the announcement of that opinion and other opinions should be later on today. So we'll see what it has on that. And Hedges has ordered suspension of Pentagon's offensive cyber operations against Russia. So he restored Fort Moore to Fort Benning in honor of the World War II soldier yesterday. And definitely it looks like he's got some things going on as well. And Trump threatens federal funds for schools that allow illegal protests. So definitely he's threatening to pull funding from universities over protests. Trump says federal funding will stop for colleges and schools that are allowing illegal protests. And New Orleans police are considering canceling the Zulu and Rex parades due to weather. An abbreviated Mardi Gras rolls ahead of anticipated severe weather. So it might not be as much as has gone on in the past because of some weather things that are going on in that space. So definitely a lot of folks, a lot of news in the world, including some New York prison guards that are fired for ignoring a deal to end their illegal strike. So definitely, and Trump has ordered swaths of U.S. forests to be cut down for timber. So Trump moves to increase logging in national forests, and U.S. imports taxes of more than 50% may ravage Canadian lumber. So I know we do get some lumber from Canada, so we'll see what folks have got to say about that as well. So like I said, a lot's going on in the world. I'm going to bring up my folks and see what folks have got to say about a number of these stories. And all along those lines, I've got Steve Rao with me. They don't always have Steve with me. And I've got Rick Rosner.
I had the flu today, so I'm not feeling very well. Running a really high fever last night, so I'm just wanted to come on today and then spend a few minutes before I go back and rest. But yeah, you did a great job summing it up. I mean, I think the main thing today is they addressed to Congress, the first time that Trump has addressed Congress in 5 years. I think Ukraine is, hopefully they can work that out, but they're basically asking Zelensky for an apology. I just think it's a scary shift in U.S. foreign policy to allow a nation to be attacked or invaded by another dictator. I think the deportation is going to be interesting to see. Despite all the talk of mass deportations, Trump has actually deported less than Biden, although I'm sure he'll blame Biden for many of the things. And 70 executive orders, more than any president in modern history. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. And with the tariffs, concerns about costs going up, will it be shifted to consumers, or will he use it as a negotiation chip for a better deal? I've never in my life seen so many things going on at the same time, and a president that's on the news channels every day, every night. When I was at Emory, you never really heard much about the president unless there was a press conference, and then the Gulf War, George Bush. Right. But now it's covered in the news every day, something different. And it was encouraging that before I hand it off to you, that RFK did order measles to be sent vaccine to Texas. So maybe not as bad as everyone thinks that he's an anti-vaxxer. But I don't know where to begin, guys. I mean, there's so much.
A lot going on in the world and everything.
Yeah, that's just a high level. I mean, there's so many other things. But tonight he's addressing Congress. We'll see what he says. And I'm going to be here and listen while I try to give him
No, that sounds good and everything. Just really quickly, and this is for Rick and Nick, and if Kim wants to jump in as well and everything. I thought that one of those executive orders was to make English the official language. I thought English was already the official language of America.
It's not. America doesn't have an official language.
And America doesn't have one. And the next question always, can an executive order make English the official language? That's an issue. That's a legal issue. Because remember, who's supposed to legislate? The executive branch or the legislative branch? Hello? Why do you think they call me legislative branch?
Hello? We don't have branches anymore. We have a king.
All right. So
I know.
A self-proclaimed king, and his court doesn't
mean
we don't have branches.
It doesn't mean it's legal. So the thing is, the real issue isn't English the official language. The real issue is his executive order legal, because this should come from Congress, not the president. Remember, he's an executive branch. He's supposed to execute the laws according to the Constitution. He's not in the legislative branch. He's not to make up the laws. What are your thoughts, Rick? It seems like you have some.
Oh, the first time Trump was president, there are associations of American presidential historians, and since the first time Trump was president, they've taken 5 surveys of these people, mostly liberal, but also conservatives and moderates in the organization, and they repeatedly voted Trump the worst president in history based on his first administration. And this time around, he's even worse. Today, he is tanking the markets for no good reason because of all the fentanyl coming from Canada. 19 kilograms, 42 pounds of fentanyl was intercepted from Canada in the past year. You can curl that and you won't even get a good workout. 1/500th of the fentanyl intercepted from Mexico. He's tanking our economy for no good reason. He's pushing through a $4.5 trillion tax cut for rich people. He's in just about every area. He's being shitty.
Hey, just really quickly along those lines, there is another person we hadn't heard from. We've heard from J.D. Vance. We've heard from these various cabinet members, including Linda McMahon, who's now the Secretary of Education. But we really hadn't heard that much from Melania Trump. I do know that Stephen Colbert made a teasing comment or a teasing kind of like satire of her and everything. But she did come into news yesterday, and she's dealing with, because the First Lady oftentimes deals with a important issue. So she is finding it heartbreaking to watch teens grapple with the fallout from revenge porn. So she joined the push for a law on deep fakes and non-consensual porns, which is like people that are using images of others in these porn attacks. So what is our thoughts about Melania Trump lobbying Congress to combat revenge porn?
May I jump in here just for a minute as a woman?
Yes.
I find it interesting that they don't go out and shame Trump and put his face on all of the porn, but they deface and shame a woman like they always do. If anything ever happens, it's always the women that get shamed. And Melania, I mean, unfortunately, she's married to the worst man in the world, worst president in the history of the world and the universe. But you know what? She didn't do these laws. She didn't make these things. She didn't do this. She just supports him. But I don't think her face should be shamed. I think if you're going to shame anyone, start shaming the men, put their faces on the revenge porn and make it real, because actually I think you don't have to make it up with AI. I think you can go dig enough and you could probably find their faces in real porn. I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, look at the Tate brothers. I mean, let's shame Trump there just a little bit. He brought home 2 sexual offenders who were arrested for child porn and sex trafficking in another country, and he brings them back to the U.S. And as soon as they landed in Florida, they didn't go anywhere else. He runs back to Mar-a-Lago that same day. Why? And he goes, I don't know who they are. I don't know what happened. I have no idea. Bull crap. That's his.
I looked it up. Most states have laws against revenge porn, and California passed a whole bunch of laws. California passed a new law that stops you from using AI to put kids' heads on, your classmates' heads on porn bodies.
But what do they do about it? How do they enforce it? They never.
I don't know. They just prosecuted their first person under the new law. Why did Trump bring the Tate brothers back? What's the deal? Why is he bringing?
Well, I mean, they are huge, sex offenders.
Yeah, but what was the point in bringing in letting them avoid?
Because he got them released, just like he pardoned all his J6ers and everyone else who serves him. Think about it. Just put the puzzles together.
Well, speaking of putting the puzzles together and everything,
I
and I
mean,
know
the Epstein files are coming out in piecemeal. Why?
Let me
And
emphasize,
he paid Pam Bondi a campaign, a huge campaign donation, and she locked those files up. And now Pam, as they're slowly trickling out, she goes, "I didn't lock them up. The FBI did. I swear I didn't." No, bullshit.
So I just did a quick count. It looks like about 45 states have laws against revenge porn. So Melania is just
don't
like,
do
going,
anything
hey,
about
look over here. Don't, like she's pushing for something that's already been made into law. She's
Yeah, and they're trying to be victim again.
so
They're
she's doing
using this to
so
victimize themselves.
Rick and Kim, it
Trump
sounds like she's doing
campaign is a victim. Now his wife's a victim.
It sounds like they're doing a shell game and everything like that. But just really quickly, speaking of shell games, it
If
looks
anyone
like
believes in revenge porn and they believe that that's real crap, then that's their own stupidity.
no. But speaking of things that might be stupid and everything like that, apparently the Republicans has targeted. Durham is not one of them, but even though Durham probably could be one of them, 4 sanctuary cities as Trump is pushing mass deportation. So I know Boston is one of them, and they're heading to Congress this week to face heat over their sanctuary city stand. So is this a legitimate complaint that the Republicans have about these cities that are proclaiming themselves as sanctuary cities, and they look like they are targeting 4 sanctuary cities as they're trying to go for that mass deportation? So what is our
we
thoughts?
see how Germany feels about us right now. If you look at that float that they put together for their big
Right.
So I mean, Trump is gonna this speech might set a record for the amount of untrue things that Trump says in a speech. There's so much stuff going on.
Hospital.
Well, I just want to bring up too that TikTok is they're using AI to scan, and they're confirming what everyone is saying about Trump, and they're separating people. And literally, sometimes if you were like working with a group, a really nice group, not people who are making fun of or names, but just trying to sort out what's really going on, they are separating you, making sure you can't reconnect. They're also censoring every word you're saying. You're not allowed to use the word rape, killed, Nazis. I mean, there's a long list. Every time I go on, there's a new list. And the way you find out is the minute you say that word, and if you're on a panel, they will take that person out. So you just need to put tape on your mouth when you go on a panel and mumble. And then type in what you really want to say. And now they're scanning visuals. And so what a lot of people are doing is they're making posters and putting up the posters to say what they're trying to say. So social media is becoming a big problem. We have worked with and have created our own social media links. They have been beta tested better. I launched them last year, and I put too many features in them and they kind of blew up. And so we're relaunching them, and I'm working with people who want an alternative from TikTok and Facebook because we don't censor. The only thing I say is no excessive foul language, no bullying, and please just try to fact check yourself. Don't be a news repeater. That's, and the news media are being forced to report whatever the billionaires want them to say now, because they've been taking people down in the news network for not repeating what they want them to.
So let's talk about some numbers that Trump is going to say tonight. Trump will claim tonight that Doge has saved American taxpayers $105 billion so far. But when journalists look at the claims, they find that about half of them are BS. So maybe Doge has saved $50 billion, which is slightly over 1% of the tax cut that he wants to give to rich people. Save 50 billion, give away 4.5 trillion. That's freaking crazy. Also tonight, Trump will say that the U.S. has given Ukraine $350 billion in aid, because he said it in the Oval Office with Zelensky. That's BS. It's half of that. It's 183 billion. 3/4 of it stayed in the U.S. and went to arms manufacturers, and then they shipped over their obsolete weaponry stuff that the U.S. often doesn't even use anymore. So we're going to see a barrage. He's going to make claims about how many people have been deported, even though his deportation daily average trails Biden, and also, well, the last year of Biden, I think, and trails Obama, who was the king of getting people to go back to where they came from.
And in spite of all that, I will have to tell you guys, because I know you're beating up Trump, we just did a LinkedIn Pod TV poll, want to know approval rating. It's about 60% approve, 40% disapprove. So you can hammer him all you want. Whatever, it doesn't matter. He's got the support of the majority of Americans. Now, of course, that's
no, because if you look at 538.com, okay, you did one survey. If you look at 538, which averages,
your surveys are all wrong, Rick. Mine are always right. So the thing is, I don't care what you're saying, because my LinkedIn surveys have continually proven to be correct. 538.
No, wait. So hold on a second, because I was wrong in the lead up to the election. I was looking at 538 saying this has Trump winning, and I'm like, I think that's BS. I was wrong. But 538 was pretty much dead frickin' on. And when 538 says that the 8.2% net positive approval Trump had on the day he took office is now down to 0.1%, dead even.
Whatever. I'm just letting you know that the LinkedIn poll that I just recently did, he's 60-40. LinkedIn people aren't your dumb rednecks in Kansas that you all portray Trump supporters to be. Okay, this is a cross section of America, usually highly educated and working people. When you see his approval ratings at 60-40, you've got to take pause. Now, some of them don't like all his policies, but the Trumpsters and the anti-Trumpsters both have blinds on. Now, one problem I do see he has is these tariffs, but it's not the tariffs. Nobody gives a rat's about the tariffs. It's what's happening in the stock market today. The stock
market is not happy with the tariffs.
Lost a lot of money today. I mean,
we're looking at a stock market crash, but I want you guys to piece another puzzle together. Okay, so Elon has removed the national parks, and they're going to need someone to take over them. So Doge has gotten rid of the national parks. They attacked Zelensky for his minerals, and they've talked about gaining Greenland, Canada, and various other countries. And I think all of this is for minerals, because I think Trump and Elon had an agreement. If you start piecing these puzzles together, why do they want to do all of this? Trump made a deal with Elon that he would give them all of the minerals from all of these resources. He can have all of them for his companies. And in return, Elon helped Trump become the self-proclaimed king that he is today. And so he gave them all the money he needed and all the support, and got out there and rah-rah cheered him on because he was a big face now. And he became king. Now it's time for Trump to give Elon what he wants. Now watch what happened. Ukraine kind of stood up against him and said, no, I'm not going to give you those minerals. And it's not a lot. Everyone says, oh, it's not that big of a deal anyway. But with that, with the minerals that have been banked for many years in the national parks, the minerals in Greenland and other countries that he wants to take over, that's a lot. Now, what happened was the day after or 2 days after all of that happened in the public, and Zelensky now is getting support from other countries, Elon has now told Trump, you're going to pay Doge $4 million just to help this department. So now Elon gets money. So his agreement with Trump was either you provide me the minerals I need for the contracts that I have for this country, or you provide me the money. So here is if you piece together the puzzles.
But speaking
it's
of
not a conspiracy theory. people. This is real facts.
No, it's real facts. But Kim, along those same lines, and this is to Sasha and everything. I don't know if I'll call the other part of the piece of the puzzle that I brought up and everything, because a lot of the timber that we get is from Canada and all along those lines. So we get quite a bit of timber from Canada. And
but we also
earlier
get
today,
a lot of
they made
minerals.
the announcement that they want us to cut the timber in the national parks, which means that you can cut the timber at the Eno, which is actually a state park here in North Carolina, or you can cut some of the other timber and everything like that. So, Sasha, what is your thoughts? Because I do know we get quite a bit of our timber from Canada. It's a major timber supporter of houses and everything like that. But now it looks like he is encouraging us to cut the trees here, including the trees in the national park. So, what is your take on this timber war, is what I'm going to call it?
Well, you can cut the trees, you can buy chicken and put them in your apartments, and then you will get eggs, but you will have to pay royalty 10% on each egg that chicken will rest for you. What's interesting is that one well-known think tank in Ottawa, in Canada, they devising a new strategy for Canada to abolish absolutely all tariffs against all the world except United States, and on United States impose 100% tariff, not 25, not 55, 100, because there is nothing that US is producing that Canada cannot live without. 100%, maybe 150 will do as well, but 100% is kind of a nice round number. And urge all European countries, all Asian countries impose 100% on all American production. So America is out. Just keep your $36.5 trillion debt and counting. Good luck, babies.
So you said the market is crashing. The market isn't. The market is down about 1.4, 1.5% today. Was down 1% yesterday. So it's way down, but it's not crashing at this point. But as this goes on for weeks and weeks, we may see, we'll probably enter a bear market, and then eventually a correction within, I don't know, a month or two, which is a 10% loss of value in the stock market.
Rick, NASDAQ is already there. The 10% already there on NASDAQ. And it will not take long until S&P will be in correction territory. But look, it's neither here or there. It's not going to be pretty until at least 2 years from now. Midterm elections maybe change something. While Trump has undisputed kingmaker in U.S., stock market will keep going down. There is one very important number on Friday, the CPP number, and most likely this number, you know what, it doesn't even have any scenario that number, whatever it might be, positive for the market, because Fed cannot, in this environment, cannot bring the rates down. It's just impossible.
So the Fed said that growth for this first quarter of 2025 is likely to be negative 2.8%. That'll be the first negative growth quarter in nearly 3 years, and the worst quarter since 2020 under Trump. So, Trump could not be doing worse for the economy if he were actually Putin.
Well, what Trump is doing, he's crushing U.S. from inside and from outside. It's internal politics, what he's doing, and it's international politics, what he's doing. He is crushing U.S. down to the ground. And with this enormous debt of $36.5 trillion, I think America might as well, I don't know what they're going to do. They want to maybe start war against Mexico, or maybe try to talk to Denmark to save Greenland. How U.S. is going to pay for Greenland, nobody knows. And actually, Denmark could ask for Greenland, say, $500 trillion. Oh, that's a lot of money now. Oh, well, then you don't buy.
All right, well, Shaquille popped in for a second. Let's see if we can get him back, because he might have an alternative point of view about some of the stuff.
Yeah, we actually had a question for Australia about him and everything. While we're waiting to see if he pops back, I don't know where he went to, but I know he's been having some health stuff going on, just like our good buddy Nick has as well and everything. But there is a major sports figure that got a pardon. He passed away last year and everything. So I'm wondering, are we going to see members of Pete Rose's family at this talk? Because I'm not sure if they are allowed to bring guests if it's a talk to Congress as opposed to your talk to the nation and everything like that. And should there be a pardon? Should there have been a pardon of Pete Rose? And should Pete Rose get in the Hall of Fame and everything like that? So what is your thoughts? Because he did pardon him and he is a major sports figure and all along those lines. So Nick, should he have gotten that pardon that Trump gave him? Because he also gave the pardon to Pete Rose.
Well, I have some personal relationship. Actually, my wife used to teach Pete Rose's son in Boca Raton. Pete used to live there, and we used to go to his restaurant all the time. You know, he's a pretty well-known figure in Boca when we lived there. Here's the arguments that Pete Rose has promulgated. He goes, well, I never bet against my own team.
Right.
So, you know, and if you never bet against his own team, then where's the conflict of interest? The other thing is sports betting today is legal everywhere. So, you know, I think he has some arguments to be in the Hall of Fame. But unfortunately, it's going to be posthumously. So he won't know. So he doesn't care. It's only his family. And he has the record to sustain himself to be in the Hall of Fame. So I think it's kind of a weird situation. But I believe
Pete Rose was a maniac. His nickname was Charlie Hustle because he worked his ass off, but that same wild ass competitiveness led him to do some.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, you know, sports people are like that. So also, when Kim was talking about minerals, let's talk about specifically what minerals are they looking for. It appears to be lithium because they run lithium batteries, and Ukraine appears to have a stack of lithium. The other place that has a stack of lithium is Australia, but the Aussies send their lithium to China, so we don't get to pick apart the Australian lithium. So to make America great again, we need to add to the list Greenland, Panama, Canada, and Australia, because we take over Australia.
We have somebody.
So we're going to take over Australia. Speaking of that, we do have somebody from Australia. We have Shaquille. And by the way, I was going to praise Australia in a major incident that happened. There's another person that passed, unfortunately, but there was a major donor. It was, I know, all over the news here locally in the nation around the United States, but there was a gentleman that apparently saved many lives by being a major blood donor. So I encourage people that are able to be blood donors because sometimes you are in health crisis. But there was a major Australian that apparently saved a lot of lives, and he died at, I think, in his 80s. I want to say he was like around 88 and everything like that. But he was a major blood donor to many people, and it was all over our news here. I don't know whether it was all over the Australian news and everything like that. So you have to tell me. But he was a major blood donor there that was from Australia.
Well, let's hear what Shaquille has to say about the last 6 weeks of the Trump presidency, or anything else he wants to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who this blood donor is, but then again, as you can tell by my hat, I've been in surgery for a while. As for the last 6 weeks, I have some very, very grave concerns, especially with the amount of control and influence that Elon Musk has over this administration. But I'm not going to sit here and listen to lectures from Democrats about this. Are you people serious? Democrats seriously across all legacy media channels are going to sit here and whinge about the disproportionate amount of influence that powerful, wealthy men have over government. This has been the ongoing complaint from people that are not on the right, by the way, that were on the centre-left. This was the ongoing complaint from centre-left people who used to be Democrats for decades. It has been the ongoing complaint from people in the centre and people on the centre-right for decades. And in this last administration, Democrats refused to acknowledge anything. They refused to acknowledge any kind of special treatment, any kind of, contracts going to certain companies. Let's take California as a classic example, okay? California spends how much per capita? for every homeless person? How much are they spending? And where's that money going? Oh, it just so happens to be going into the coffers of companies that are run by oftentimes former Democrats, companies that are almost always donate to Democrats. Does anybody want to talk about the Sierra Club? Should I go on? Because I can come up with a whole list of things. So if you're going to have a little complaint about Elon Musk, here's the difference between that side of politics and my side of politics. Yeah, I've got a real concern about Elon Musk, and I'll say it very openly. I've got a real concern about what Donald Trump's doing with his tariffs. What he should do instead, if he wants to try to equalize things with Europe and other countries, is he should just do what they do and have a national sales tax. But in the absence of him being able to do that, because he would need congressional approval, a tariff is not such a bad idea. Do Democrats have any better ideas? I haven't heard any as yet, because so far all I've heard from the left, whether it be Democrats in the United States, whether it be the Labor Party in the UK or Australia or Canada, is let's just tax the rich more. That's their solution to everything. So this little complaint that I'm hearing from people on the left right now about, oh, this is corrupt and, oh, that's corrupt, well, I wonder where that former Democrat, Elon Musk, learnt it from.
I didn't know he was a former Democrat.
At least in today's show, that we haven't been bitching about Musk. The only bitching we've been doing about Musk is that some of his Doge numbers are inflated. But mostly we've been bitching about Trump. So...
Rick, I could come on here in 10 years from now. I could come on here in 20 years from now. Presumably 20 years from now, Trump will be almost dead. Okay. And you guys will still be whinging about Donald Trump. I still hear you guys complain about Ronald Reagan, for goodness sakes.
No, in retrospect, I freaking love Reagan. I would have Reagan back even in his current
in retrospect, though. No, but in retrospect, it's one of those things that Democrats love to say. This is not the Republican Party of, your father, your grandfather. Great, because you didn't like you didn't like McCain that much, did you? You didn't like Mitt Romney. You didn't like all of these old school, Cheney, etc. You didn't like any of them when they were around. Couldn't stand them. Ronald Reagan, terrible. Let's bring Jimmy Carter back.
Now, there are some people on this network that have said that they like Mitt Romney and some of the other moderate Republicans, for lack of a term, and everything. But definitely,
at the time, did they vote for him? Did they vote for him, Mark? I've asked those people that have said, yes, I liked them. When asked, did you vote for him? Oh, no, I would never have voted for him. So again, reality is reality.
I know some people that
we on our side, if you're going to put me on the Republican side, even though I'm not American, if you're going to put me on the Republican side, at least we can sit there and openly and honestly say, yes, there are some problems. Yes, there are some flaws. Yes, there are some real concerns. Democrats, no, what are you talking about? We've got no idea what you're talking about. You must be a conspiracy theorist.
I brought up flaws in AOC. I brought up flaws in other Democrats as well.
AOC is not the president.
No, but I'm just saying I brought up flaws in the Democrats. You said flaws with Hakeem Jeffries and others. And then
Hold
on a second, Shaquille. I did have a question for you on one of your other passion projects and everything along those lines.
Sasha's had his hand up for a while. Sasha's had his hand up for a while.
You talk about all the time.
Sasha's had his hand up for a while. Let him speak.
Huh?
Sasha's
had his hand up for a while. Let Sasha speak.
Oh, go ahead, Sasha. I didn't see your hand. I was getting ready to ask the question, so I was looking at the other screen. So go ahead, Sasha. My fault.
Yes, it is your fault, Mark. I'm hanging with my hand for the last 5 minutes or so.
I wasn't. I just said I wasn't looking at the screen.
And you will not interrupt. On my shows, I will never, ever allow people to talk when someone is talking, while he is talking, and only when I will redirect the flow, then someone else will talk, but not two people at the same time. That's why I restrain myself, and I don't want to interrupt Shaquille or anybody else, and I'm waiting until I would be given opportunity to speak. This is horrible, Mark.
Like I said, go for it. Like I said, I was looking at another screen. I'm oftentimes doing multiple things. As y'all know, I do multiple things and everything. So I'm letting you speak. Go ahead and speak with your argument, whatever the argument is. I was not looking at this screen at the time.
Well, I'm disgusted that Shaquille is bashing Democrats or would-be Democrats or whoever they are. Democrats today are irrelevant. They have no voice. They have no platforms. They have nothing. So why, Shaquille hell, are you bashing Democrats when all evil today in the United States is coming from Trump, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, and all these mafia people? This is what's happening. U.S. has been taken over, and it's not gonna last for long. You will see Trump is destroying United States from within and from outside, from international politics or so on. Right now, today, Canada already kicked 100% traffic, the reform against just U.S., and now Ottawa-based think tank recommending Canada to remove all barriers from all international just by itself. It's not going to be like changing of treaties or agreements. It will just remove all duties, tariffs from all countries around the world except one, United States, and not 25%, but 100% tariffs, and just keep hitting U.S. U.S. is getting 60% of oil imports and gas from Canada, fresh water, timber, and many, many other things. Electricity has already been turned down. No more electricity coming to us from Canada. And keep punishing this son of a bitches until it will hurt. And it's hurting, trust me. The stock market is collapsing. That's indication.
Okay, all right. Well, so let me respond. Firstly, I apologise. I left when you started speaking. I'm having a slight technical thing with my phone. You know from our previous conversations, I will never leave just because you're talking.
That's
Secondly, all right, I'm going to say this. One, you say Democrats don't have any voice. Well, when Democrats did have a voice, what did they do? They bashed Trump and they bashed Republicans. No, let me finish. No, let me finish.
They're not relevant today. So why you keep bashing them when they're no longer in power?
Let me finish.
Changing anywhere.
Let me finish.
Are you trying to be beautiful? Friends? You're trying to please your friends, saying that Democrats, Biden, this, that. Stop it! Trump now is in power for second month, and what can he show for that? Forget about Biden, forget about all the Democrats. They're irrelevant today. So it's just a talking point. You're going to show what a great man you are, what a great Republican you are, or your friends. Oh, Biden this, and Democrats that. Stop, Shaquille. You're a much more clever person than that.
Now can I finish?
Yes.
Thank you. After Biden won, we never heard anything other than criticism of Trump, did we? Every problem that Biden encountered in his first little while as in presidency was all Trump's fault. In the mid part of his presidency was also Trump's fault. And at the end of his presidency, that was Trump's fault. Now Trump's there, and what are we hearing that's any different? It's all Trump's fault. Now, as for these tariffs, and as for Canada, the suggestion that Canada removes all international barriers to trade, good, do it. Do it. Why shouldn't Canada and the UK and Australia, etc., remove those barriers to trade? If we did that, our countries would be better off. And you know who's saying that right now? Donald Trump's saying that right now. Donald Trump is asking the question, pretty much as a paraphrase of Milton Friedman's ideas. Why is it exactly that we here in the United States, not me, that we here in the United States have no barriers to trade? People can come in, buy our real estate, they can make capital gains here and not pay taxes here. The United States is open slather. But when Americans want to try and invest elsewhere, they're faced with hurdles. Why is that? Maybe we should do something about it. Now, if the answer to that Canada has come up with is let's remove all barriers to trade, then maybe that's what they should have just done in the first place.
Yeah, agree. Actually, they prove that Canadian economy will grow additional 2% if they will remove all trades except United States.
Well, look, if Canada wants to be clever and try to remove barriers to all trades with all countries except for the United States, do you really think that's going to help Canada? Is that going to help Australia if Australia was to do that? It's ridiculous. The United States is in a particular position of power, a particular position of influence, and the United States is saying, and I believe rightfully so, right, that they should not be taken advantage of by the rest of the world by continually unfair trade deals. And I will note again the criticism that has been leveled at Republicans and Donald Trump about withdrawing from the Paris Accord. Now, you guys have now had more than 5 years to give me an answer. Please, somebody tell me if it is so objectionable to withdraw from the Paris Accord. Can somebody please tell me what the United States is required to do according to that Paris Accord? If you don't know the answer, then stop criticizing the bloke for it.
Shaquille, I'm not sure about Australia, but I have difficulties to name any of the U.S. products or commodities or anything that Canada needs from U.S. and without it, it cannot survive. I can't really figure out what it is. It's
Sasha, if Canada is such a strong and powerful country, then why does Canada have such an open immigration policy? It has been for a very long time easier to immigrate to Canada than it is into the United States, in the same way that it's easier to immigrate into New Zealand than it is into Australia. For the same reason, bigger economies, more opportunities. You guys get your pharmaceuticals from there. You guys get meat products from there. You guys get your motor vehicles from there. And just while I'm on that, when the FDA approves something, what exactly does the Canadian equivalent of the FDA do? Absolutely nothing. The Americans say it's approved, bang, rubber stamp from Canada. Okay, so look, you know I absolutely love and adore Canada. Okay, but maybe, and I hope the new Prime Minister, after Trudeau's out of there, I hope the new Prime Minister, the new Conservative Prime Minister, does something positive for Canada, because the whole world is moving in that direction. Keir Starmer has made a mess of the UK. This dickhead running Australia at the moment has made a mess of Australia. Okay, every major Western country that has been led by the left has got massive unpopularity, huge problems with immigration, huge problems with crime, healthcare systems which are failing, education systems which are failing. Please name for me an exception where there is a left-wing government in charge of a major Western country where everything's going really well. Please name that for me.
Venezuela's doing really well. They're pretty left.
United States being
Venezuela, yeah, Venezuela. Is that your next stop? Is it, Nick? You're going to go from Spain to Venezuela?
No. By the way, even though the people here are anti-Trumpsters, Pod TV LinkedIn poll just taken. I just pulled it. Trump's favorable rating 60%. Favorable.
That's not true, Nick. You know, you should know.
It is true. I mean, I used these polls and it was accurately predicted. You guys were all saying that Kamala Harris just won the debate. Kamala Harris is going to win the election.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris this, Kamala Harris that.
There's
no wrong
out of it.
Okay, so,
When Biden's favorability is at some of the lowest levels recorded in presidential history, that's not true. Actually, he's a superstar. When Kamala Harris has terrible approval ratings, that's not true. She's just the brat summer girl at 60 years of age, right? But when Trump's approval rating is really high, oh no, that's not true either.
Actually, when we did the America's Worst Presidents, I believe Biden actually won that and everything. So because it was a race between Biden and Trump when we did that show and everything. So we can't say that wasn't the case.
Anybody who says that Biden is the worst president in U.S. history needs a head read, right? Have a look at the bloke before Lincoln. What was his name? Buchanan, whatever his name was. You know, have a look at Andrew Jackson. I mean, come on now.
No, but there was a number of them. I'm just saying we did a show, and the show had it was between Biden and Trump. And I want to say that I have to go back and watch the shows and everything, but Biden won, and there was a debate we had with our different panelists and everything.
So we have lunatics on sometimes. So I looked up the Paris Accords, and I was shocked to find out the Paris Accords, we don't have to do much of anything. There's only one thing, so we have to report on our emissions every 5 years. We must submit a plan to reduce emissions. Every 2 years, we have to say how much greenhouse gas we're spitting out. We must be transparent. We must work with other countries to examine what we're doing. And the only thing is that we're supposed to kick in $3 billion a year to help poorer countries fight climate change. That's the only. So it's nothing. It's a freaking Band-Aid.
Well, Rick, I'll tell you what. You email me what you've got there, because if you remember 5 years ago when I asked, right?
Yeah.
And it was a trick question. The reason why I asked all of you guys to please tell me what was in it was because you couldn't find it. Because when you looked it up, you couldn't find it. It's like a lot of the free trade agreements between nations. You can't find the details. Okay. Secondly, if you have a look at most Western countries, we have reduced our emissions by more than anyone else. Now, you want to give $3 billion away to the poorest countries on earth. Whatever. $3 billion is not a lot of money. What does reducing climate change mean exactly? Is it some more of this US aid stuff? Let's celebrate transgender youth, in kindergarten in Uganda. Is that what we're talking about with climate change? Because don't forget AOC, racism is a form of climate change.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember how health disparities in color, in skin color, was a form of climate change? Is that the sort of places that $3 billion is going to be spent on? Give me a break.
I don't care. We're out of the Paris Accords, but let me agree with you. Per capita, our greenhouse gas consumption for Americans declines by 1% a year, which is freaking great. We are consistently knocking down the amount of junk we're generating, which is freaking great. Also, we're not making babies because we're too busy, streaming entertainment and staying in our basements and looking at porn, and and young people have no money to start families. So the fewer babies, the less pollution.
This is a positive thing, is it?
No, it's not positive, but it means that that the Paris Accord is not going to save the world. What's going to save the world is incels staying in their basements jerking off.
And by the way, the trans issue was brought up. I see we got Steve back again and everything. It was brought up because Martina Navratilova was actually upset at a bill that was lobbied to not happen. It was supposed to be a bill around the whole notion of males, trans playing in women's sports. But Martina Navratilova was in the news because she was upset over that whole argument and everything like that. So she definitely came out not so much in support of trans in women's sports, but actually against trans in women's sports.
Let me ask you a question, Steve. I'll ask this question on behalf of people like myself and our viewer that just said that Trump and Musk are destroying the country from the inside out, or whatever the statement has been. Okay, let's go with that. Fair enough. Cool. I don't agree, but fair enough. Could you please tell me exactly what the plan was for Democrats this time round? What exactly was Kamala Harris and Tampon Tim going to do, right, that was going to improve things so much for the United States?
And that's a great way for me to end, and it's great to see you. I got the flu this week, so I've just been running a high fever. But I think I'm going to tell everybody that I think there was no clearly defined plan. And I think the Democrats had no compelling message. Their entire campaign was based on Donald Trump's a bad guy. I'm a prosecutor. I can take on the thugs. And I don't think they focused in on a message of what they would do to get the economy better, what they would do to focus in. I noticed even in North Carolina, Trump focused more, his rallies were more, normal people coming in, whereas, Harris was more, Beyonce and Oprah and things like that. So anyway, he's gone, but that's my answer to it.
Yeah, I agree. Harris would have been Biden part 2, with the argument being, hey, things are pretty good. Everybody needs to realize things are pretty good, and we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, and we'll give you 25 grand to make a down payment on a house.
Yeah. I got to run, guy.
Yeah, with that, we're going to have to run because we're at the hour.
Thank you, guys. See you
All right.
soon.
Next time.
I'm going to
All right.
rest.
Steve.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Feel better.